What's up guys, this is Ryan Maker from RC Maker. Today I want to share some really cool diff info with you. There's a bit of confusion around which O-rings are the best to use and which washers and everything now that Awesomatix has quite a few different options. So this will apply to all cars, but I'm going to be using part numbers and everything specifically to Awesomatix. But if you've got a different brand, you can definitely apply this to your own car as all the diffs work in a very similar way. So first off, we've got three different ways to tune our diff. Basically the first one is oil. So everybody knows that you can tune your diff oil. Normally anyone's going to run between say 3,000 and 10 to 15,000 at a really high traction track. So normally for lower traction you'll use a thinner oil. For higher traction you're going to use a thicker oil. And then we have the O-ring durometer reading. So basically you've got your softer O-rings, which are going to give you a smoother action in the diff out drive, and then you've got your harder O-rings. So basically Awesomatix have three different levels. We've got our OR05M, which is the kit. We've got our OR05V, which is this one. That's the new Viton O-ring. They have quite a similar measurement, so they're quite similar stiffness. So the resistance in the outdrive is going to be quite similar. The V is for Viton. Basically the V is just a different material. It's going to give you a little bit longer life than the standard OR05M. Then we've got our OR05S, which is my favorite. So the OR05S will wear out a little bit faster, however it is the softest, and it gives you a really nice smooth movement in the diff out drive. So here I've installed an OR05S. I really like the feeling you get with it. It's really nice and smooth. It doesn't limit or restrict the outdrive's movement at all. And I like to do most of my tuning with the diff oil rather than have a really stiff outdrive. But there are different benefits to all, obviously. The third way you can tune your diff is through washers. So Awesomatix actually have two different options. We have the WA03, which is the kit one. We also have the SH5x7 by 0.4. And you can see here that they're extremely different. I've actually got the 5x7 by 0.4 installed, and I'll tell you why in a second. But basically you can tune this with these. You can see the diameter of the back of the main gear here. So if you take the WA03, it's actually exactly the same diameter as the gear. Now if we have a look at the 5x7 by 0.4, sit that one on there. Oop. You can see how much different it is. So what this is basically going to be doing, this one is going to be allowing a lot more oil to flow behind the gear, whereas this one is going to be, basically it's acting as a really big resistance pad between the gear and the back of the diff housing. So what we've found in our testing is that this one actually stops the diff thinning out so much. It does provide a lot more binding. So basically when the car accelerates, the centrifugal force is going to push all of the gears outwards. And you're going to get a lot more binding when you use this one with the friction of the oil behind this gear, this washer here, and the diff out drive. So you're going to get a lot more binding when you use this one, and this one is going to be a lot freer. So basically what we found is the diff's going to heat up more and it's going to thin out more with this one, and the diff is going to bind more and it's going to stay thicker until the end of the run with this one. So the way you can use that for tuning is in low traction. Normally you want the diff to actually thin out a bit, because as the tires lose traction you want a little bit thinner diff, which allows the car to have more traction throughout the run when the tires are dropping off. But in high traction and high heat, for instance, you definitely don't want the diff to be thinning out. A lot of guys at TITC this year were actually playing with the new diff checkers, and they were checking the diff before and after the run and trying to minimize that drop off. And we found specifically that the diff was thinning out really quite a lot with this washer, and we went there with that washer and we changed to this washer, and it actually increased the diff thickness at the end of the run by quite a substantial margin. So we really liked to use this as a tuning option. However, in low grip back at home, I've definitely found this one to be better. So as the tires get older and the traction's not there, the thinner diff actually does help the car keep its corner speed and keep its traction in the rear. And if you can find, if you do run the big washer, that the diff stays hard even near the end of the run where the tires are struggling for traction and everything, and you can find that the car can actually start to get a bit difficult to drive throughout the run. So basically that's the way that we use those. With the O-rings, basically, as I said, I like the OR05S because I don't really like to limit the outdrive's stiction. However, in really high traction conditions, it can be beneficial to have a stiffer outdrive because basically you want, it sounds crazy, but when you've got that much traction, you really want the rear to bind under acceleration just to give you that absolute maximum amount of forward traction. You don't want the diff spinning out or trying to spin that inside wheel backwards. So In really high traction conditions, it can actually be beneficial to have more of a stiffer setup. So you would use, say, the OR05V combined with the big diff washer. In low traction conditions, I definitely recommend the OR05S with the SH 5x7 by 0.4 washer, and that's going to let the diff work a little bit better in the lower traction conditions where you want the diff to have a nice free action. So normally we'll use like this big washer with say 10 to 15K and the small washer with about 5 to 10K depending. And it's also really important to note that the oil that you need to use with these washers really varies. So if you say have 10K with the small washer with a soft O-ring, or 10K with the harder or the Viton or the OR05M O-rings with the big washer, they're going to feel, if you have the same oil, they're going to feel totally different. And I'm talking it could be 3 or 4K different. So if I build a 10K with this washer and a soft O-ring setup, it could even feel like a 5K with the harder O-ring and the big washer setup. So basically you can just play with these tuning options, and it's really, really handy to have. It's surprising how much difference it actually makes. So if you're running in low traction conditions, I definitely recommend, as I said before, the small one with the soft washer, and in high traction or hot conditions where you don't want the diff to be thinning out as much as the run goes on, I'd recommend running the hard O-ring with the bigger WA03 washer. So guys, I hope this has been quick, but I really hope this has been some useful information for you to tune your diff to the track, and just how different all these little options can all add up and may be the difference between you having, you know, a car that's good and a car that's totally dialed throughout the whole 5-minute run. So let me know if you guys have any questions, and I'll be sure to answer them and get back to you. Cheers.